Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Byjus IAS. Welcome to the Hindu analysis of 9 July 2024. Let us look at the articles that we are going to cover today. As you can see, the first two articles, one an editorial and another on news, is with regards to the French elections. What has happened to Macron's party? What were his expectations? And I don't think the elections has gone according to his expectations. Similarly, there was a lot of talk that maybe the far right would come to power, but the elections has not gone in their favor also, and the left parties have sprung a surprise. So there is a hung parliament when it comes to France this time, and there is going to be a lot of political uncertainty as far as France is concerned. So we shall look into the elections of France. Second, double health budget, reduce out-of-pocket spends. I personally felt a good topic with regards to health, so we shall cover this. Fourth, ahead of talks with Putin, PMCS will back peace in region. See, there is nothing much to talk over here. Anybody who did not cover yesterday's news, please go in yesterday's CNA. The first news item I have already covered totally about this topic, nothing new today, hardly one line. And rest, because Prime Minister is in Russia, even while I was entering the class, I was reading some news article related to Russia only. So this would be there in the news papers for next 2-3 days. So very, I would say, non-important topic for this day. Brewing duel amid Manilas duel engagement. Japan, Philippines signed defense pact amid China concerns. So both of them regarding Philippines, and we shall see what exactly, where does India also come in the picture as a partner of Quad, and also the fact that few days ago we have provided BrahMos missile to Manila. So we shall look into that. Mamta again says no to sharing Tista river water with Bangladesh. Again, an old topic. Hardly one line is there which I have to tell you, so I will be covering this. Apart from this, Centre set to tweak criteria for according classical language status. Now, the background of this is, in October there is going to be the elections in Maharashtra, and before that already there is a lot of demand that Marathi be accorded the classical language status. It's not only about Marathi, but even languages like Mathili and all. There are demands, so we shall look into this topic. Second, government reopens PLI scheme for white goods till October 12. So we shall see what exactly is the scheme, what are these white goods. So we shall be covering these two things. Third, hurdles in importing diamonds pose a quantum block for research ambition. So why are the hurdles, and what are those blocks for quantum technology or quantum research in India? We shall look into that. Lastly, world's oldest cave painting was created at least 51,000 years ago. Something has been discovered, so we shall cover this also. Let us look at the first topic for the day. Now, please understand, I have given you all the keywords when it comes to French elections. I'll tell you what is happening. Elections happened. You can see this graphic, and I'll take a red pen. Now, if you all see in this graph, there are three major groups. One you can see is this black one. This is your National Rally, the far right party of Madame Marine Le Pen. Her photo is given here. You can see this is this one. National Rally and Allies. You can see they have got some 143 seats. Yellow, the ensemble, the centrist bloc of President Emmanuel bloc. So this is your yellow. They have got 168 seats. This is your centrist alliance. And of course, this purple color, 182, New Popular Front, the left alliance led by Jean-Luc Mélenchon. You don't have to remember. This is your France New Popular Front, coalition of left parties. Apart from this also, you can see one row. This is of other left parties, and here you can see this is others, and there is a blue grouping which is the Republicans, right of center. So when today I was reading this news article, and yesterday when I was looking into this performances of these parties, left, right, center, far left, far right, center, right of the center, so many such terminologies came, and you study this in your polity. Now what has happened is, as you can see, France altogether 577 seats in their parliament. To win, you need to get 289. As you can see, the biggest block is 182, the second biggest block is 168, the third biggest block is 143. You don't have to remember all these numbers, just remember you have right, you have leftist parties, and you have the centrist alliance. This is centrist alliance is being led by Mr. Macron. In this election, he called off this election thinking that political uncertainty would end in France. But what happened is, everybody was guessing that maybe right wingers, the right party, would win the elections. But to surprise of everyone, left wing has got the maximum number of seats. Now, you don't have to get into a lot of that, but when I was reading, what I found out was, before the elections, some of these left parties and centrist alliance, they had some sort of understanding. What they did was that, let's say this is a constituency, so they removed one of their candidates in order to challenge the right in a better manner. That's why when you will study this, right, they have got 30% plus votes, around 35% they have got. And these two are around 28 and 22, something like that. And yet, the far right is lesser than the other two. So in many places, there was this understanding between the other two blocks. So clearly, nobody has got a majority. Now, if nobody has a majority, you all understand there would be a political uncertainty. And this political uncertainty just before the Paris Olympics does not sound that good for France. So that is the thing. Now, another issue that is happening here is that there is a lot of concern about this right wing that is emerging in entire Europe. So I'll be talking about this in much detail. What are their views with regards to anti-migration and all that I'm going to talk about. So hopefully, till now you understand that the biggest bloc is left parties. Now, as I said, in left you would have socialists, you have communists, you have hard left, France Unboard, and even ecologists. They have sprung surprise. Nobody had thought that they would be winning. Second place is centrist alliance and third place is far right party. Now, please understand, they got around 143 seats, yeah. And the far right, this is a big jump. They had 89 in 2022. Now, the thing is, Mr. Macron wanted to take France ahead with regards to political and economic progress, but you all can understand this has suffered a huge blow this time. Now, please understand, there were two articles today. One is news and another is editorial. So, though editorial is talking about resurgent left, the big story when it comes to Europe is the rise of right. In fact, there is a lot of concern in the entire European politics with regards to the rise of the rightist party. So, for example, here in France, this time it is National Rally. The far right, which is mentioned here, they are winning this, or they have won 143 seats this time. Now, let me tell you why there is so much of concern about the far right, and you will understand that with one word. The far rightist, Le Pen's, her father, who had founded this party, was somebody who was a denier of Holocaust, had extreme views with regards to migration. Of course, they have softened their stand a bit so that they can get a lot more votes here. But then, the thing is, this right concern is because even in countries like Netherlands, Italy, Finland, there is a rise of this rightist parties. Now, in this editorial, one thing is mentioned, that it's very tough and not that easy to call them rightist all the time. They are saying this is a tricky word. Why? Because these rightist parties, they keep on changing their policies very, very frequently. So, for example, they are saying that the right-wing party, which has won so many seats in France, one of the reasons why they have won so many seats is because in France, they have raised the cost of living crisis. Similarly, in this editorial, the example of Italy is being given. We all know Italy's Prime Minister is Giorgia Meloni. It is mentioned she recently had scolded a leader of her youth wing for giving fascist salutes. So there is a lot of such parties which are emerging in Europe. I have already said, even recently in UK, the Nigel Farage of Reform UK had won a lot of seats. Now, coming back to another thing, you all can understand that when there is no government which has got a majority of its own, there is a lot of worry. There are lots of concerns at this point of time because nobody has got a working majority. And just before the Paris Olympics, it's going to create a lot of volatility. That's why one of the leaders, their statement was, it's not going to be simple, no, it's not going to be easy, and no, it's not going to be comfortable. Because, already the Prime Minister of France, his name is Gabriel Attal, he is a centrist leader, offered to resign yesterday. He is a close ally of Mr. Macron. He has tendered his resignation. Mr. Macron has asked him to continue for some more time. But now it has to be seen, that who goes which side. Though there are some smaller players also, but then the problem is that none of the smaller players also coming with anyone else can form would have a working majority. So either of any groups has to come together, which has to be seen. So that's all about your French elections. Do keep in mind a lot of uncertainty when it comes to France. Double health budget reduce out-of-pocket spends. So please understand, this article has been written by K. Sujata Rao, India's former health secretary. She was Director General National AIDS Control Organization. Before that, she's also the author of 2017 book, India's Health System, Do We Care? So that's the, author's, I would say, introduction. Now, please understand, I have taken some important facts here. Current total health spending is about 3.5%. Of this, the public health spending is about 1.35%. So please understand, there is always this talk about that 2.5% of GDP should be the public health spending. But in reality, this is only around 1.35%. Overall, 3.5% is the expenditure. So clearly, this comes out from the fact that because there is low public spending, it leads to high out-of-pocket expenditure. So common man has to spend a lot from their own pockets. Now, madam is saying that in the last few years, in her view, steps like demonetization, GST, and even COVID pandemic, and all of them in quick succession, what they did is they have impacted millions of people who are living at the threshold of the stagnant wages. The fact that there is a high food prices, they have to take a lot of loans to afford this critical health care. So in this there was a I'll show it to you here. It's mentioned, while 13.4% of the households in rural areas and 8.5% in urban areas borrowed money to pay medical bills. Now I don't want you to remember this number, but you can clearly see that 13.4% in rural and 8.5% in urban, they are borrowing money to pay their medical bills. Now, according to the author, estimated 60 to 80 million households are reported to have fallen below the poverty line for availing medical care. You know, in rural areas, this is always a saying: birth, death, marriage, and if there is any big health crisis, this all affects everyone in a very negative manner. Now here, the author also says that, you know, if you have a disease, in the sense that if there is a communicable disease, let's say an infectious disease, they are easier to handle. Please understand, why easier to handle compared to non-communicable diseases who have to be managed for a lifetime, thus necessitating a routinized system of care. I'll give you one example. Let's say, I'll take a very simple example of diabetes. Now you all understand, if somebody is plagued by diabetes, he has to or she has to have medicines, or for that matter, if the case is slightly more critical, insulin, which they have to take throughout their life. Take another example, blood pressure. If there is somebody plagued by blood pressure, they would have to keep on eating those pills for throughout their life. So here, the expenditure on such diseases go up. On the other hand, the diseases which, you know, can be cured after a certain while, within months, maybe also, you know, that would not cost that much. Again, see, it's a comparison. This also costs a lot. But then compared to this, it would be slightly easier to handle. Now, see here, in this, they are saying that when it comes to India, what our government has done is periodically they have increased the sum assured from 5 to 10 to 15 lakh under subsidized social health insurance. But then the author is not very happy with this, because she says this is the easiest thing and this is not the best way, the best practice. Now, as you all know, budget is going to come, and since budget is going to come, there is a lot of what do you call expectations from the budget. So she has quoted some numbers. Since 2010, in gross terms, the central budget allocations have certainly improved, up from 25,133 crore in 12-13 to 86,175 crore in 23-24. The proportion of to GDP of the central health budget has been around 0.27% only. So you can see here, between 1.12% till 1.35%, this is the number where the health budget has hovered. You know, public spending with regards to, I would rather write public spending, has hovered. Add to this, the states, they spend around 5% of their revenue budgets, though the target is 8%. And again, remember, 5% is average. Think about a state like Bihar. So in Bihar, disproportionately low amount of money is sanctioned for health sector. So these all are something that has to be looked into. Now in this, one very good point was that we have got loans worth $65 million and $175 million. This from World Bank and this from Asian Development Bank, and this has been negotiated. And of course, these loans would help to fill the gaps that exist in critical infrastructure as far as India is concerned, specifically of states like Bihar, UP, MP, Odisha, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Assam, where there is always a unavailability or shortfall of facilities as well as human resources. Now, please understand, few days back I was talking about one district, Nandurbar of my pronunciation is wrong, of Maharashtra. There also we saw how in certain areas of even the richer states, the condition, the facilities are not that great. And now the author is raising certain issues. For example, she says there is a need to rationalize the GST levies on health products. Now, if you see here, GST levies, 18% is there on health insurance. Now, all of you, if you have not got a health insurance, you should always keep. This is a personal advice. And you should always have health insurances for your parents, for your loved ones. But then, when you pay these health insurances 18% GST, it's a very big sum. Similarly, 5% GST on insulin. Similarly, 5% GST on hepatitis diagnostics. Now, this is something which is huge. So the author is saying maybe we can look into all of this. See, again, my suggestion, read this article, very good article on health. It will give you lots of substantial points. If you don't want to read whatever I have mentioned, this much you should remember. This would take care of any 10 or 15 marker that comes in your mains exam. Moving ahead. See, page 10, ahead of talks with Putin, PMCS will back peace in region. See, everything I have discussed yesterday. 8th July, first topic, everything I have discussed yesterday. Nothing new in this. Anyways, today after the talks, there would be some news item tomorrow. Already in the morning I was reading, not mentioned, that most probably Russia has agreed to release all the Indians who are serving in Russian army. As far as this entire editorial is concerned, most probably Prime Minister has already communicated the message that the solution of the Russia-Ukraine war will not be found on the battlefield. And the two sides are also discussing India's desire to open new consulates in Russia. The sources have confirmed. This is one new item, new news, which I have not covered yesterday, but it was mentioned here. Apart from that, every other news item has already been discussed yesterday. Leaving this article, anyways, would come many times in the coming days, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. We'll keep on reading on this topic. Moving ahead. Now you can see two topics on Japan, Philippines. The left hand side, this is for pre, that Japan and Philippines have signed a defense pact amid China concerns. This defense pact is reciprocal access agreement. So this is the point that you have to remember. And then you can see there is an editorial by Mr. Atul Bhardwaj, a fellow at the Prime Minister's Museum and Library, New Delhi, a brewing duel amid Manilas duel engagement. Now, see, I want to explain this entirely to you. See, first of all, who is the president of Philippines right now? Mr. Ferdinand Marcos Jr. He is affectionately known as Bong Bong, and he is at the helm of Philippines. And from the time he has come to power, it is clearly seen that Philippines is ready to take on China. Now, before Mr. Marcos, the Philippines president was Rodrigo Duterte. He was not that much assertive against Beijing, but Mr. Marcos is clearly very, very assertive. And when he is being assertive, he has the support of USA. Now, if you see, US-Philippines relationship has been on upswing since Mr. Marcos has come to power. Now, traditionally, US and your Philippines, they have had a mutual defense treaty. So, please understand, upswing since 2022 when Mr. Marcos came to power is one thing, but then both the sides have a historic relation also. Before I come into the historic relationship, let me give you how is it clear that Mr. Marcos wants to take on China. You all know the Shangri-La. Okay, the recent Shangri-La International Institute for Strategic Studies, Shangri-La Dialogue as it is called. Mr. Marcus clearly said that China's actions are illegal, they are coercive, they are aggressive, and they are deceptive when it comes to South China Sea. Just to give you a perspective, in the eyes of China, Mr. Marcus, along with Taiwan's president, Tsai Ing-wen, they both are accused by China to be America's lackey or American lackey. That is, they are people who are puppets of America. That is the thing that China always keeps on saying. So this is the present circumstance. As I've already said, historic treaties are also there. But then America does not want to open a new front where they have to do a naval battle with China. Remember, in Philippines, there are almost 4 lakh American citizens. And many of these are military veterans. In fact, when I was reading this article, I found out that the only US Veterans Administration's regional office outside US is in Manila. So for US, Philippines is very, very critical. Already for South China Sea, the critical position that Philippines has, invariably it's an indispensable factor as far as US South China Sea strategy is concerned. Now, beyond US also, Mr. Marcus Jr. is leveraging the support he receives from the Quad partners. Who are the Quad partners? India, Australia, Japan, and of course, USA. This all he is doing to transform his country's forces. Now, few days back, I have already covered, if you remember, in April, India delivered the BrahMos missiles under an agreement done in 2022. This was delivered to Philippines. Similarly, Philippine Navy, they have received 4 million worth of coastal surveillance radars from Japan. India has supported Philippines on 2016 tribunal ruling which had found China as guilty for breaching the EEZ of Philippines. Japan has also pledged 12 more ships apart from 7 patrol ships that they would be handing it over to Philippines. So clearly there is a lot of, you can see here, friendship going between Quad and Philippines. But then there is a strange thing. Philippines is fighting, or is, at least verbally fighting with China when it comes to South China Sea. But then Philippines, while it is confronting the PLA, Navy of China, it is also reliant on Beijing's financial support. Japan, forget Japan. Please understand, this is very, very crucial. In the last 20 years, China has given some $9.1 billion in state-directed finance to your Philippines. So between 2000 to 2022, $9.1 billion has been given to them. Lastly, you can see there were 2 articles. The second, please understand, I'll change the color. Under this, Japan, Philippines, they have signed a treaty. Under this, there would be deployment of Japanese forces for joint drills in Southeast Asian nation. I've already said this is reciprocal access agreement, which gives, as the word is reciprocal, gives the similar power to Filipino forces to enter Japan for joint combat training, and this has been signed. It's mentioned in the slide. You can see Japan and the Philippines signed a key defense pact allowing the deployment of Japanese forces for joint drills in the Southeast Asian nation I'm writing the treaty's name is Reciprocal Access Agreement. Remember this for prelims. Very, very important point. Moving ahead. Again, an old topic. Madam Mamata Banerjee is again saying no to sharing Tista river water. See, according to her, if this is shared, there would be no water left for Northern Bengal people. Now, in this article, nothing new. There were two things. One, she's saying in Sikkim, there are 14 hydropower projects on the river. So, according to her, she is questioning why so many hydel project powers are being constructed on Tista. And Madam Mamata Banerjee is also claiming that Bangladesh and China have made a dam on Atrai river. The river has dried up in West Bengal and river flows through Dakshin Dinajpur district of the state. So this is the thing that she is pointing out here. One very interesting line was written in this article. She said that no estimate on water should be done during summer looking at situation in rainy season. You all understand the water levels during rainy season would be much more than the water levels during summer seasons. So that's the point raised by Madam Mamata Banerjee. Moving ahead, Center to tweak criteria for according classical language status. See, when the criteria would be tweaked, we shall look into this again. Right now, what is the thing? There are demands to give classical status for languages like Marathi, Bengali, Assamese and Mathili. Anyone please mention which are the classical languages of India. So please mention that in the comment box. But apart from that, these are the 4 languages for which this classical status is being requested. Now you all understand. This year there is going to be elections in Maharashtra. So suddenly this demand of Marathi getting this is becoming very, very strong. And that's why the union government, they had set up a linguistics expert committee. This was set up by Cultural Ministry. They submitted a report last year on October 10th, which suggested some changes. Now, please understand. The gadget notification will be issued by the cabinet only after considering this category, criterias. So it is pending the cabinet approval. That means, languages like Marathi and all, whether they will get the classical language status, this will need some time. Now, specifically with your Marathi, what has happened is that in 2014 only, the then Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Mr. Prithviraj Chauhan, he formed a committee of Marathi language experts. It was chaired by Rangnath Pathare and the report was submitted to the centre. The Pathare committee had concluded that Marathi fulfills all parameters to be recognized as the classical language. Now in the past 10 years, you can see 2014 I said this committee was established. We are in 24. In the past 10 years, 3 times, when the MPs have raised this issue in the parliament, the central government has given assurance that they are looking into this matter. As recently as February 22, they had said that this was under active consideration of the Ministry of Culture. Now, everyone, what would happen if a language is considered to be classical? You can read this paragraph. Once a language is notified as a classical language, Education Ministry helps promote it, which includes instituting 2 major annual international awards for scholars of eminence in the language. Apart from this, a Center of Excellence for Studies in the language is set up, and the UGC is requested to create a certain number of professional chairs in central universities. So these are the advantages, this paragraph. This is the advantage if any language gets the classical status. Now, please understand, again I said Marathi in focus because of the elections, but then a committee member of this committee which was formed, they mentioned that Maharashtra being a rich state, they don't need funds to promote the language. It's only a matter of pride for them, and that's why they are doing this. That's why they are requesting that this should be done. Let us move ahead, and this time let's go to PLI scheme for white goods till October 12 has been reopened by the government. Two words, PLI scheme and white goods. Now everybody, production linked scheme, you all can understand this was conceptualized to scale up the manufacturing capability domestically. This way there would have been higher import substitution, we would not have imported goods, and this would have also created a lot of employment. So this was started in around March 2020, initially targeted three industries like mobile, electric component and medical devices. Later it was led to 14 sectors. Now one of those sectors was white goods. Now please understand one thing, this scheme is managed by Commerce and Industry Ministry. Now if you see white goods, what are these white goods? See, they refer to heavy consumer durables, or what do you call the large home appliances, like let's say giving example, refrigerator, washing machine, stove, air conditioner. So for this scheme has been again open till October 12. Please remember, it has already given a lot of incentives. Almost 6,962 crore beneficiaries from 66 applicants in the last few years have been covered under the PLI scheme for white goods. Moving ahead, another hurdles in importing diamonds pose a quantum block to research ambition. Now here you will study on your own with regards to National Quantum Mission. Do find it out. What exactly is this? Now basically what the problem is, Custom Department decides who can or who cannot import the diamonds in India. Now you all understand that diamonds, your diamond manufacturers, they would be importing it. Now when these diamond manufacturers, they import this, they look for the cut, the clarity, the color, the carat, these aspects of diamonds. Whereas the quantum researchers, those who do the research in this, they look for defect in this. So under this National Quantum Mission, which was of 6,000 crore initiative to make India a leading destination in the field of quantum technology, this was started from 2023-24 and would continue till 3031. So under this research and development, R&D would be there. A whole atmosphere would be created for quantum technology. Would of course lead economic growth of India, nurture this ecosystem for them. So all this was there, mentioned under this. Now, you can see here, last slide. The Science and Technology Ministry has announced plans to make quantum computers of 50 to 1,000 qubits by the decade end. So already I mentioned 3031. So by the end of the decade, this is aimed. However, quantum computers globally are far from being useful devices, because maintaining electrons like in the defect diamonds in their qubit-like states is a daunting challenge. Now, you all can see, sorry, there is a word mentioned, qubit. See, qubits are basically analogous to bits and bytes of classical computers. So do remember this word qubit, which is associated with the quantum mission or quantum technology. Lastly, on the ceiling of a limestone cave on the Indonesian island of Sulawesi, scientists have discovered artwork depicting three human-like figures interacting with a wild pig in what they have determined is the world's oldest known confidently dated cave painting, created at least 51,200 years ago. Just remember, where has it been discovered? Indonesian island of Sulawesi. Remember, 3 human figures interacting with a wild pig, almost this much older. Apart from this, a new scientific approach was used this time to determine this age. So a laser was used to date a type of crystal, that is calcium carbonate, which is formed naturally on the top of this painting. So in the last, you can see in the Liang Karampuang painting, the interaction between the human figure and the pig, that's not clearly understandable what they are exactly, interacting. So that's not deciphered. Let us move to the questions for the day. Number 1, in the context of rising tensions in the South China Sea, why is there a need to protect maritime security, ensure freedom of navigation and overflight in the region? Discuss keeping Indian interests in mind. 150 words, 10 marker. And one question, I have not covered one topic today, HPV, because we have covered it many times earlier also. Consider the questions of development, marketing and pricing of an Indian HPV vaccine for prevention of cervical cancer in India. What is its significance and how can it contribute to the fight against cervical cancer in India? 250 words, 15 marker. Attempt these 2 questions and let us meet again at the same place, same time tomorrow again. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.